Do you want to wow a sales manager in any interview and finally land that dream sales job? Well, no problem. Because when you come to your job interview with a 30, 60, 90-day sales plan, you're going to make it clear that you know what to do, how to do it, and that you're going to hit the ground running when they hire you. That's how you secure your dream sales job in one fell swoop. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can build your own 30, 60, 90-day plan to talk about in your next interview. Hi, my name is Will and I make selling simple. Now in today's video, we're going to cover what is now essentially a downright necessity for acing any sales job interview, the 30, 60, 90-day plan. We're going to cover why you need to build out this plan before your interview in the first place. Then we're going to jump into how to physically build a 30, 60, 90-day plan from the ground up. And to do that, we'll start with looking at the three most important considerations that's going to set the groundwork for the rest of this plan. And then we're going to break down the essential components of each section of your 30, 60, 90-day sales plan. And along the way, we're going to be looking at some specific examples of sales goals that you can include as well. Then finally, we're going to wrap up with 3 mistakes that everyone makes when they create these plans in the first instance, and so you can avoid them when building yours. Does that sound cool? All right, well, let's get into it. So first up, why do you even need a plan at all? Well, I've got one word for you here, and that is competition. Sales is, of course, notoriously competitive, and it can be really hard to stand out from other professionals who are interviewing for the same job that you're going for. So unless you've got an amazing track record with tons of experience and jaw-dropping sales numbers that you've achieved in the past, then you're probably going to come into the job interview looking like every other candidate. What's the solution? Well, you've got to have a differentiator. So the biggest benefit of a 30, 60, 90-day plan is that it helps you stand out from the crowd. And when it comes time for the hiring manager to make a decision, you're going to be more memorable than the rest of the people that they've interviewed. But beyond that point, a sales plan also proves that you understand what success looks like in the role. You're showing that you're not a novice. You're showing that you know what it takes to be a winner in sales, and this plan is going to prove it. And the third benefit of running through this process is that it shows you you're serious about this. It shows that you actually want the job, that you're willing to put in the work to get it. And just try and find me a sales manager that isn't an idiot who doesn't love this kind of enthusiasm. Okay, so there's lots of benefits here, but how do you actually build one of these plans? So before looking at all the nuts and bolts of the plan and showing the template that I want you to use, you first got to consider these 3 considerations in order. First off, you've got to start the whole process, the entirety of the process, by aligning your plan with the current team goals of the organization that you're trying to sell into. The more that you can tailor your plan to a company's specific goals and priorities, the better. Bonus point here, if you can connect on LinkedIn with a sales professional that's already working at the company, and just ask them, what goals are they being pushed towards corporately? And I guarantee this, right? And this isn't a complicated process, but none of your competition will go this far. This will really make you stand out just as a step on its own. Number 2, you've got to identify your own personal priorities as well. Are you trying to make the most money possible in year 1? Are you trying to set up the territory for more success in 30, 60, 90, 3 years from now? Do you want to work on your personal brand so that sales over time becomes easier and easier as more deals come to you directly? You've got to know what you're trying to get out of the job role before you build your plan and hopefully get the job. And number 3, you've got to understand the success criteria of the organization that you're trying to get a job with it, because this plan is only going to be as useful as the criteria that you align it with. Otherwise, if you don't know the criteria of the role, then how are you going to make any progress within it? So some examples might be in the first 30, 60, 90 days that you've got the ability to demo the product at a high level, you've built some key relationships with your biggest potential growth accounts, or maybe you've built a list of 100 potential customers to prospect over the next 12 months. That's pretty decent criteria to get started with. So with those 3 considerations in mind, let's now dive into the essential components of your plan. And the first step is figuring out what your goals are for the first 30 days. So for most salespeople, success in the first 30 days is likely completing all of this really boring and tedious employer training and onboarding and knowing where the fire exits are if you work on site. But I also want you to add a couple of the following success criteria to start to flesh out that goal. Perhaps you look at really understanding the corporate policies or the goals of the organization. Maybe you develop an intermediate level of knowledge of the key products and services of the organization. It'd be useful to know where your position is within the market versus the competition, and maybe you learn the key connections that you should have internally within the organization so that you can liaise and go back and forth with customer support and sales leadership and people like that. So what we're doing here in each of these sections of 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days in our plan is to define our success goals. So I'll just give you a few examples there, and then share how you're going to know if you've had the success. So let me show you an example of how this might look. So you might have a 30-day success goal of gaining an intermediate level of knowledge of your key products and services. So to achieve this goal, you're going to say, no, to complete this goal, I will spend 1 hour a week with the product specialist for each product and get them to quiz me on my knowledge. And then we need to confirm that we've actually achieved this goal, because these are self-set, right? I will have had success if in the 30-day review meeting with my sales manager, they can quiz me on the product range and I can then answer all of their questions. So the structure of your plan is that you're going to set a goal. Then you're going to explain in the document how you're going to achieve the goal that you've just outlined. And then you're going to write down how will you know if you've achieved the goal, so that it can be measured and you can tick it off on a box as you go through your 30, 60, 90-day meetings with your sales manager, which we'll touch on in a second. So at this point in your new role, once you've been through your 30 days of goal setting and goal achievement, before you move forward onto the 60-day and 90-day periods, it's important to schedule formally a meeting with your sales manager to run through any of the successes that you've had and maybe a few issues that you've had along the way as well. Mentioning that you want to schedule these 30, 60, 90-day meetings in your sales plan and talking about it in your job interview shows that you've got high levels of self-responsibility, self-accountability. This is incredibly attractive for any hiring managers out there. So that's the first 30 days of your plan. Let's move on to the next 60 and then the final 90. So during this second month, you're going to spend more time in the field or on the phone with your potential customers. You're going to be focusing on understanding the marketplace and the products at a higher level. And no matter what you're selling, after 60 days of being really immersed within it, you should now know it inside and out. You should now be looking at spending time with current customers, where appropriate, where there's opportunities to upsell them. But you should be really, and you've got to do this, and you've got to implement this in your plan. You've got to really look at ramping up your work with your team, so role plays or shadowing other reps to learn that 10-20% of their process that can give you 80% of the benefit. And you've also, of course, now got to start doing some cold outreach as well. So with all that said, here are some potential success criteria that you could put in your plan as well. So you could include the fact that you've started to develop at least 5 new leads, you've shadowed a couple of the top performing sales reps, you've got a high level understanding of your key products and services, you've completed some role-playing sessions, you've added or contributed to a sales meeting, and you've now completed all formal sales onboarding. Now, of course, your sales manager isn't an idiot. They know that some of this stuff is going to be appropriate for 30, 60, 90 days. Some of this stuff might have to come after a certain period of time because maybe it takes 60 days to do your onboarding. Don't worry about this kind of stuff. This is a plan before we're employed. When we're employed, this plan will change. We can sit down with our sales manager and refine it. Remember, this process here is not meant to be perfect. This process is meant to give us ammunition and social proof to get the job in the first place. And I know that we're covering an awful lot of ground here very quickly, but don't worry, there's an entire template that you can just fill in that comes at the end of this video. So that's your 60-day plan. Now the 90-day plan. At this point, you should already be hitting the ground running. That means you've got an optimized prospecting list, you've got your foot in the door of at least a couple of potential key accounts as well. So at the 90-day meeting with your sales manager, you should be choosing a handful of these potential success criteria and including these on your list as well. So perhaps you've got a clear and optimized prospecting list that's in use, daily schedule for prospecting, following up and staying on top of everything else. Perhaps you've had at least one round of feedback on your performance from your sales management, sales leadership. Hopefully you've now at this point, 90 days in, you've closed a couple of deals. You've got a foot in the door of a couple new key accounts. The goal at this point of the plan is to demonstrate that you're going to be ramped up fast. You're going to do the nonsensical onboarding that most large organizations force you to go through. You're going to get all that done as quick as possible. And at this point, 90 days in, you're going to be driving revenue. You're going to be putting commissions in your pocket and your sales manager's pocket as well. That's what they want to hear. And if you can demonstrate that that's your goal with all of this, you're going to get hired. And of course, with the 60-day segment here and the 90-day segment here, don't forget to include the 2 necessary sections for each of the steps that you put into place, where you're going to outline to complete the goal, I will do these things, and then I will know I've had success with this goal if this criteria is hit. So there we have it. That's your basic 30, 60, 90-day sales plan. It can fit onto one piece of A4, maybe kind of 2 pieces if you really drill into the details. That's all you got to do. Take that into your sales job interview and the chances of you having success skyrocket. Now, before I share the template that makes putting all this together an absolute breeze, there are a few things that you should avoid with your 30, 60, 90-day plan. First off, all of this falls apart if you don't include success measurements. So not including specific ways of measuring your success is going to be a red flag for a hiring manager. Salespeople who often end up being successful are willing to put their money where their mouth is. So make sure that you're including criteria for your boss to measure you against. Lots of salespeople say that they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to do one thing and another. But when you turn around and say, this is my goal, this is what I'm going to do in 30 days, this is how I'm going to do it, and then the final step of this is how you're going to measure if I've achieved it or not, then there is so much personal accountability there that your sales manager's face is going to be lighting up as you go through it. The next issue that I see with these 30, 60, 90-day plans is that the plan is just too vague. You need to get specific with your planning. A wishy-washy plan without specifics just comes across as lazy. Like you just couldn't be bothered. You know that this was an important thing to do and you just couldn't be bothered going through the process and actually getting it done. And the third thing that I see people do wrong with these plans is that you're not booking in or asking for the time to be booked in for follow-up with your sales manager. Just as follow-up is absolutely key to winning large, complex B2B sales, it's equally important for your personal development and your sales skill development over time as well. So make sure that you're scheduling meetings with your sales manager at the 30-day mark to make sure that you've achieved those goals, the 60-day mark to make sure that you've achieved those goals, and of course, the 90-day point to review your progress as well. All right, so if you want to get started with all this, if you click the link that's below this video, there's an entire blog post where we go into this in more detail, and there's a template there that you just fill it in and you've done 90% of the work in one fell swoop. Below this video, in the description below, you can't really miss it. There's no need to sign up for anything either, so you can just get in it and get started instantly. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not click the video that's on the screen right now and continue making selling simple.